Alright, finally done building Areith up, so that we can do this challenge quest. For a long time I actually had Aerith's full kit, but refused to build her because I was sort of boycotting cursed artifacts after all the terrible effort I had to put into getting Sarah's artifacts set up right. But nowadays I would argue that the cursed artifacts aren't quite so bad. So, well, and especially Aerith's, because Sarah's is pretty bad because you want 3 double cursed artifacts, whereas with Aerith, you just want her charged healing wind boost all, and a one-way attack. You just want 3 of those, really. And so that's not quite so bad. Or I should say not quite as difficult to get. But nowadays, we also have the Chaos Co-ops, which drop way more artifacts than what we used to have with just the EX Co-ops. So the cursed artifacts aren't quite so bad. Anyways, Kefka is purple with an LD, as you can see. Areith is 0-3, and Shadow is at base EX. I didn't even realize his armor. Didn't have to. But I did remove all of his speed passives. So that way, he doesn't take too many turns. Because he's not going to be hitting very hard. And, well, we'll see if Kefka can carry everyone through. Spoiler alert, he does. And so, yeah, we have the big giant bird. I got Kefka's debuffs on him and I framed him so that way when it resurrects itself it keeps the debuffs on because it doesn't remove frame debuffs. One tricky thing about keeping Aerith at 0-3, so let's talk about that a bit for a second. So, does Aerith make a good budget unit? And the answer is kind of. So, Aerith is designed to be a healer who can also, a battery and deal some single target damage. And the fact that she's a healer already makes her unique, much less a healer that's got a bit of damage in her kit. On that note, I would definitely not go anything less than 0-3 on Aerith, like how I've done with Shadow, because the 0-3 realization, I believe, is what allows her to do an HP attack right after she uses her EX Fury brand. And that's very important. That's huge for saving turns. So, with 1 ingot, she gets a pretty sizable increase to her attack and an even bigger increase to her max brave. So, it's totally worth putting the first ingot into her. Second ingot is it's handy but a little less impressive. She starts with all her buffs, and she has some pretty decent buffs, her attack buff especially. And her Ancient Lineage lasts 6 turns instead of just 3, which is nice. That gives her HP++. And right now she only gets it, well, she'll lose it sometimes. Basically, if you don't if you don't pace her skills out properly, then you could have to go through a good amount of this without her HP++, because right now Ancient Lineage only lasts for 3 turns due to the fact that she's at 0-3. So what you'll typically see me do is I'll use Fury Brand, and then I'll use one of her skills in between each Fury Brand cost, and then I typically don't have to go without her HP++ for too much. In fact, I think the most ideal way to do it, and I don't figure that out until later in this fight, is to Fury Brand, and then if she's at low brave like she is now, do a Healing Wind or a Prayer of the Cetra, and then to use her HP++ afterwards, and then ideally Fury Brand is back up depending on the speed and number of enemies, and if not, just another HP++ should do. Another thing to note, Kefka has full character boards, Aerith has skill 1 and skill 2 boards, and Shadow has no boards. Should we talk about Aerith 3? Let's go back to Aerith. I didn't talk about her 3-3. Her 3-3 is quite good. Increases the speed of Fury Brand. Allows it to... I think I'd have this up in front of me. allows it to do other things. Increases the recast speed. Oh, actually, another thing her second ingot does is it gives a better overflow aura, for the party. So that's pretty handy. Should we talk about Kefka at all? I've had Kefka purpled for a while. He's actually really strong. In fact, I would argue that unless you're trying to build a team, the rest of the team as a budget, like how I've done, you don't even need his LD. Kefka at 3-3 is still very strong. I actually ran Kefka as a 0-3 for a good amount of time, but his HP++ really comes in handy if you don't run him with batteries. HP+. He gets his HP+ at the third ingot, Kefka does. And the reason why he's actually a pretty strong budget unit is because he still gets the full power of his debuffs, which is pretty much why you bring him. He's a debuffer that can really do massive damage. I'm surprised quite often at how hard Kefka is able to hit. And he'll still hit really hard. And, well, I mean, I guess his EX only doesn't get the second Brave in HP round when he's at less than 3-3. But yeah, he hits really hard. So he's actually decent at 0-3 or 1-3 or whatever you want to run him at. You just have to make up for the lack of the second hit on his EX, which means don't run him with too many other budget units or you're not going to deal enough damage. But yeah, his defense down, his attack down, his speed down, his HP silence is blind, all just as powerful as 0-3. Areith, let's see, so her third ingot is Fury Brand of faster recast speed, gives it a better battery, which it's already pretty good at, and then instead of just an HP attack afterwards, you get 3 Brave attacks and an HP attack afterwards. You get her Sphere, which is quite good. Her Sphere is 15% magic attack up on HP is above 80%. That's quite good. And then she gets her HP plus, in case you like pluses. Which is a little better than her plus. So yeah, I would say 1 ingot's quite good for her. 2 ingots is good for the rest of the party. Probably not as good as the first. And the third ingot is fine too. So yeah, she's still able to heal and she's still able to provide auras and she's still able to battery at budget. She just gains more damage, I suppose, from her ingot. So yeah, she's decent at as a budget unit because of her healing mostly. Just make sure. It's probably more important to get her charged healing when boost all artifacts than ingots, quite frankly. So make sure you get that, otherwise I wouldn't run Areith. And then Shadow, I've always been kind of on a fence on. Shadow's in a weird position because he's good, but so are other people, I guess. Let's see, Shadow gets... So right now I have him at base EX. I didn't even give him a book. If I give him a book, he would get... his Shadow Fang would hit probably about twice as hard, and then he would get Splash. So that's quite good. He had 1 ingot. 1 ingot's very good for him. 50% attack, 40% more max Brave, and then he starts with the Interceptor buff. That's one of the better 1 ingot gains, I would say. 1 ingot is very good for Shadow. Second ingot changes Wild Fang, or basically the Interceptor's attack, to ignore defense. Whatever. That's kind of overrated at this point. And allows him to start with his buffs, which is nothing special in my opinion, because A, he's extremely fast, so he'll be able to use his skills to get those buffs off quickly. And he has a lot of skill usage. So you're not spreading them out or trying to save them for the opportune moment. So I would say 2 ingots is almost useless for him. So are just better spent elsewhere. And then his third ingot gives him an HP plus, which is nice. HP to go from regular HP attack to HP plus is typically a huge difference, bigger than typically from going from HP plus to plus plus. So it does that, and then his EX hits a few more times and harder, and then gives him his orb, which is a final 10% attack when dealing critical damage, which is pretty common to a single target, which can be common depending on things. So I would say if you're serious about Shadow, give him at least one ingot. Otherwise he'll do fine. I mean, well, he's boosted in this battle. Yeah, I wouldn't really use him with that base DX. And one ingot is just so good for him. Let's see, should we talk about the battle? I mean, everybody's talked about this battle plenty, I suppose. And it's another behemoth fight, nothing special here. It's just Kefka's able to stop them from buffing, which is pretty nice, and keep them debuffed. As usual, when you're running a budget team, one of the biggest obstacles is making that turn count, because budget teams tend to do less damage. And we're going to cut it close here, but it's nice to have 2 units per round instead of the first round is one of the tough ones, because you can't deal splash damage. And Kefka's EX does splash damage, and his hyperdrive deals splash damage. So Kefka wants more than 1 unit at a time, or he's more optimal at more than 1 unit at a time. Haha, everybody missed. I would say running Kefka and Shadow together are pretty nice. Shadow doesn't have to worry about debuff slots, and Shadow's evasion is normally 60% plus 10% from Esper, so 70%. And then Kefka's blind, I think, is 50%. So that gives Shadow 100% evasion and 100% counterattacks. So yeah, they're good together. Actually, this team synergizes really well, since we're talking about it. So if you're fans of these 3 units, this is a great team to run together. And is Shadow still strong? I'd say Shadow, well, he's strong. Yes, he's not as strong as Arden, who I guess you can't pull for anymore anyways. But he's still strong. Yeah, I mean, Shadow's again in a weird place. He's good, it's just so is everybody else. Not everybody else, but so is a bunch of others. And that would be the reason to not build him. It's like, well, don't we need him? He's unique in his high evasion stats, his counterattacks, but, so what? It's not gonna, at the moment, it's not gonna get you anywhere you wouldn't get with anybody else. Maybe things will change in the future. I don't really follow the JP version that much, so I may not be the right guy to ask. This third wave, I remember it causing me so much trouble when Fang's Lost Chapters first came out. And Kefka just absolutely poop stomps all over these guys. Especially with his with his LD hyperdrive, turning all his buffs into frame buffs. It just makes these guys a joke. Which is why I think it was like turn 73 or 72 that we got up to here. And normally that's a big problem, because 3 waves, 100 turns, you want to do each wave in 33 turns. But that didn't happen. The first wave took way more turns. The second wave took turns. And so this one we kind of have to play catch up. And you'll see I'm going to go all out. Shadow, if I don't already do it. Yeah, see, I think I'm going to give Shadow 100% evasion, which is a good idea because they don't have debuffs on them right now, and he's about to get attacked. So that was good use of that. Good job, me from the past. You from the future approves. So, what was I saying? Kind of playing catch up here as far as the damage race, but due to the fact that this wave kind of relies on their buffs, you should have an easier time with it than the other waves. Prayer of the Cetra can revive someone who's dead, but you're almost guaranteed to fail the score if anyone on your team dies, even if you revive them. Which kind of makes the revive mechanic useless. So hopefully that'll change one day in some future update. This is one of the very few Final Fantasy games that I know of where revive is completely useless. Yeah, see, if Areith had 3 ingots, her Brave would have gone way higher. But then I would have 3 less ingots. Cannot use HP attacks, so B is stuck for a while. Pretty sure I'm going to hyperdrive next. Or do I Havoc Wing? This will be a better Havoc Wing, yeah. The reason I'm going to Havoc Wing instead of hyperdrive here is because hyperdrive, using that will recharge Havoc Wing as long as Havoc Wing isn't already fully charged. And really I just have to get those buffs into frame buffs before B takes another turn, or before they rebuff themselves. And so there's plenty of space to do that. Yeah, if there's one thing that everybody should get from watching videos of this stage, particularly challenge quests, that Kefka hits really hard, and I don't know if they mistakenly designed him that way, because I feel like he was just designed to be an extremely powerful debuffer. And then they just accidentally made him hit so hard, I don't know, but he hits so hard. He just doesn't get a lot of hits, I will say, outside of Havoc Wing. Light of Judgment is 4 hits on each target, so is Trine, I'm assuming that's pronounced. So most damage dealers, yeah, Trine, right? No. Most damage dealers will get more Brave attacks. Oh, was this? This was a fine time to summon, I suppose. Yeah, I definitely wanted to use Meteor Plus under summon, because that would guarantee that Kefka would get to 990 to get to max damage and allow the splash damage to go to. Because we're at 88 turns, we need to do this in less than 100. I need to really capitalize on every single turn here. That's why I like shadow spamming skills at this point. Areith's going to come close to running out. Oh, Shadow. This is not a good example of Shadow. That was a great time to use Trine, by the way, because of the battery that it gives based on your current Brave. So here I have a Quinn, which is probably his second most damaging skill in the hyperdrive, or is hyperdrive mode? I don't know, they're pretty close. But again, Kefka does a lot better with a battery because he doesn't hit very much. He hits very hard, but he doesn't hit with a lot of hits. Most damage dealers will have more hits, such as Areith will have 6 hits on most of their skills. Although Meteor Plus gets 6 hits, but you know what. Or like Eldnash will get his free turns, even Areith gets free turns. And so Kefka's not like a damage dealer, he's just a really high damaging debuffer. And yeah, Kefka's boosted in this battle, I will say that. But I've been using Kefka for a long time because I really like him and Final Fantasy VI. And so I can tell you based off experience he hits really hard. I used Areith C65 there to again try and get the most out of these last few turns that I have. I'm kind of calculating because I want Kefka to get another turn before this ends. If Hyperdrive doesn't have a high turn rate, like Light of Judgment does. So if I would have Hyperdrive there, Kefka may not have gotten another turn before hitting 100 turns. But at the same time, Hyperdrive would have hit harder, and they're so close to dying. Thank you for attacking Shadow. So he can deal a little bit more damage with his counterattack. Earth's not really doing much at this point because it's the end of the battle. But her battery's still battery. And if I ever needed healing, which I didn't really this battle, she would provide it. So here it's like, do I Havoc Wing or do I Hyperdrive? I'm pretty sure I end up Havoc Winging because it's high turn rate. Hyperdrive isn't. Although high turn rate's not going to move him forward anyways. So yeah, I think I Hyperdrive. Because, yeah, I was hoping it would kill them both at the same time, but it didn't quite. But luckily he's targeting Shadow and has blind, so the Shadow's evasion, he's guaranteed to miss. There's the counterattack, and Shadow ends it for me without taking another turn. Good job, Shadow and Interceptor. Interceptor's a good boy. And we just made the score, but if you make the turn count, you'll probably make the score. Although we only took 4 breaks, so that's pretty nice. This is a good banner to pull on. Yes. Kefka is fantastic. Areith is quite good if you can get her charge healing when boost alls. And Shadow is no slouch either. So I'd say if you're new, this would be a good banner to pull on. Although I still think Edward's banner is better. Almost perfect, if not perfect, artifacts for Kefka, so that's nice. His came really easily. I have good semi-trolly artifacts for Areith, and then I have really good artifacts for Shadow, which makes me sad that I don't have a better reason to build him more. And here's some of the things I've removed. His Assassin's Instinct is useless at this point in the game. I did not need to remove those defense passes, but I did. And now I'm adding them back because I need to move them, but you can see I removed all his speed passes. Anyways, thanks for watching.